Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Del Vecchio, and I'm the Economic Development Manager for the City of Boca Raton. And joining us today is Angelo Bianco. He is the Managing Partner at Crocker Partners. And we're going to go into a few things today in our discussion. We know that you have about 3 million square feet of Class office space here in Boca. But before we jump into that, I wanted to get you to introduce yourself, please. Let us know a little bit about you and the history of Crocker. There's a huge history here with a lot of the projects you guys have worked on. If we could touch upon the past before we go into the future, that would be great.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. I will say a few words about myself, but the history is way more important than me. I've been at Crocker Partners for 19 years. And before that, I was actually in New York City at a firm called Inspire Properties, and I worked in the redevelopment of Rockefeller Center, which is kind of interesting. So I have a different background than the Boca Raton. But I came down here 19 years ago to work with Tom Crocker, who founded this company in 1986. Wow. And Tom really taught me the business, really, and he was my mentor. He recently retired, and so it was a great run for him, and it's a great place to be. And he created a great company that I'm very happy to take the reins going forward with my colleagues and partner. And Tom actually, and one reason why he's been such a great mentor is he was a pioneer in his field and really created things that we take for granted today as being commonplace, but they weren't. And we see now lifestyle and mixed-use centers all around the world, and that those are places that have different type of retail and office and hotel, and we take them for granted now, but they didn't exist. But Tom built right here in Boca what was called Crocker Center, but now it's Boca Center, where the Marriott is located. And that was one of the very first mixed-use centers in the country, and is still today, after, 31 years, listed in the Urban Land Institute's, or the ULI's, project case reference file for what a successful mixed-use project should be. And then he followed up with that with Mizner Park, which I'm sure a lot of you watching today are familiar with. And Mizner Park is still today one of the pinnacles in this area. And if you go to the City of Boca Raton's website right now, the first picture you'll see is Mizner Park.
So we're very proud of Mizner Park. It really is amazing.
It's been identified though with the city. It's really has been. It's just
it's the heart of our city.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was one of the very first public-private partnerships anywhere in Florida. And Tom did that in 1990, 91. Back then.
Wow. So when was Crocker Center? Because I didn't realize that they were so closely developed around the same time frame.
Crocker Center was in the late 80s. And then it was just had its 31st anniversary. So like 89 would be when that delivered.
Okay. We had Dana Romanelli on last week, the managing director of Mizner Park. And I told her, and I'll tell you, I came to Boca in 91 from New York with my family, and Long Island from Brooklyn. So cement playgrounds, basically. So Long Island with a patch of grass. My parents worked their tails off to get. We came to Boca Raton out of chance and luck, and thank God. And we went to Mizner Park, and none of us could believe that people shopped like that. I mean, still, it's beautiful and it's timeless. I get it. But to come from where the perspective I had and to be in Mizner Park, we were on our way to Miami to move. And we decided right then and there, no exaggeration, Angelo, we were moving to Boca Raton. So I thank you for that.
That's a great story.
Totally true.
I believe it. It was remarkable and is remarkable today. And like everything, we need to keep investing, even in our landmarks, to make sure that they're constantly evolving and remaining relevant. And I know that the current owners are trying to do that there, and we've been trying to do it at Crocker Center or Boca Center here as well, in the Midtown Boca area. And so, that's something that we should always, as a community,
absolutely
that
reinvest.
Reinvestment is very important. And
whether it's your portfolio or your real estate, you always have to be reinvesting for sure.
Anywhere, at any time. I always use analogy. I say, if you only go to the barber or hair salon once your hair's long or the grays are showing, then you're not doing it right. So
right. Maintenance.
that's right. And so
Yeah.
what ends up happening though is that too many private owners in real estate or municipalities, for that matter, let their infrastructure degrade
Well,
beyond.
it's expensive. I mean, it's expensive, the upkeep, I imagine.
But that's right. That's exactly. But if you don't put the money in, it becomes much more expensive to fix it.
Yeah.
So it costs money. That was my favorite lines from Moonstruck. It costs money.
It costs money to make money.
I don't know, because it saves money. And so that's kind of that's why we do so much investment in our properties. Talking about the future, we're about to spend a total of $100 million in the Boca Raton Innovation Campus.
Okay. Well, before we go into the Innovation Campus, because there's great history there too,
yes.
Let's stay on Boca Center for a second, because it is pretty amazing. You have the hotel, and then you have the restaurants. I mean, again, really, like you said, it's kind of a model around the country, which is, again, 30 years ago, and we're still the model. That's pretty cool. I see, like how I say we. We are still, but I mean, it's a great plug for Boca, I mean, and that's what I have to do is sell Boca. So we use these types of landmarks to do such. But I know you developed it, you sold it.
Yes.
And bought it back. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What brought you back to Boca?
Well, we've always been in Boca. Since being founded here in 1886, we never left.
Oh, I thought the portfolio was outside of Boca at one point. No.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Sorry.
We're opportunistic real estate investors. And what we do, generally, we'll either develop properties from the ground up, like we did at Mizner Park or Boca Center, or the Wells Fargo building, or the Bank of America building, as examples right here locally. Or we'll buy a building that somehow got broken and it needs to be fixed. Mm-hmm. And so we did that with One Boca Place and the Boca Raton Innovation Campus to use local landmarks. So after we fix a building, we'll sell it. That's how we make our profit. And sometimes they keep us on. The new buyer will ask to keep us on to help manage it, because we're really good at managing the building that we took out of the, we didn't fix the problem. And other times we'll just sell everything in total. And we've gone through that cycle many, many times. And we have a very strong track record actually doing that. So we've always been based here, but sometimes we'll sell the assets because it's a good time to sell them.
Right.
And then we'll buy them when they need our attention again. So it just so happened that over the last 5 years or so, a lot of assets in Boca Raton needed our attention, about 3 million square feet of them. And so that's what we've been working on. But this is only a small fraction of our portfolio.
Right, right.
Is in several states and throughout Florida. We're the largest landlord, obviously, in Boca Raton, where we own 30% of all the office buildings in Boca Raton. But we're the largest office landlord in the state of Florida. And I think we're 39th largest in the United States.
Wow.
But we invest in the Southeast and Texas. That's
Texas, right.
But
I guess we jumped right in on this, Angelo. If you would please take a step back, it's my fault. Can you tell us exactly the properties? Because we're all local for the most part. Sometimes we have people out of state watching these, but on a local perspective, what buildings do you actually own? Brick, the Boca Raton Innovation Campus, I think a lot of people are familiar with, which will go into the history and the vision there. But the other buildings that you own and properties, please, in Boca.
Boca Center that we talked about, which used to be Crocker Center. That's where the Marriott is, and Rocco's Tacos, Tap 42, Total Wine, which I'm sure everyone in Boca is familiar with. The number one destination in the city. And then across the street from that, between that and the mall, we own 2 towers. And they're the first high rises built here. And when Tom came in and said he was going to build a 10-story building right here, Glades 95, people looked at him like he was crazy.
Really?
Yes. Remember the tallest
Was that the old Grace building? Wasn't that the Grace building in the 90s?
Across the street.
Oh, okay.
Right. And Peter Grace came down from New York. We
Yes.
relocated from New York City down here. But
a lot of history.
The black building came first. That's where I currently own. And they thought he was crazy because no one could even imagine that the tallest building was 4 stories when he built it here.
Wow.
And so he built it, and I remember him telling me the story. He had to he had a marketing room to lease space, and no one had seen this. It's so 80s. I'm sure Tom would have his braces or suspenders on.
Love
and he
it.
would imagine and he would he'd give him the whole pitch and everything, right? And then he had hired a crane to hold a camera up, 10 stories. And then at the end of the pitch, he'd open up a screen or curtains, and there was the view for the 10th floor.
Really? I mean, think about it. You laugh about it now. I mean, that's pretty innovative back then.
I
mean, who would think to do that? No one would think to do that. That's why he's the person he is, and the company that he leads, obviously, or led it till very recently. Okay, so let's go back to.
And we own the
more.
Across the street, which is Bank of America currently, and we own one Boca Place, which is on Glades in 95.
I love that building with the wave. I love that building.
That's called a serpentine wall, by the way, actually speaking. And it's reminiscent of, Thomas Jefferson, if you're from the University of Virginia, he designed the brick walls in the same fashion.
Beautiful. I mean, it really has a fluid motion to it as you drive down Glades. Nick's Fishery used to be in there. I know we're talking about the late 80s and 90s, and I'm sorry. We will move forward for people who are...
Boca anyway. They all love it. They all remember it.
It's such a great place historically. I mean, really. We haven't even touched upon the Innovation Campus. Tell us a little bit about the Innovation Campus and its history and what brought you to make that investment, which was obviously no small investment.
Well, the history there is very interesting. It's probably, Rockefeller Center's got a more interesting history, but other than Rockefeller Center, they maybe have the most interesting history to me. And that's because it started out as basically a secret project from IBM. And secret projects always are cool to begin with.
Yeah.
And they built it because an IBM, this was built in the late 60s, designed and built in the late 60s when IBM was IBM. There was no one else. They were the dominant player, period. And when they did something, it was like the United States government doing something. That's how big it was.
Yep.
So they decided to come down here and create a new facility. So they bought 500 acres.
Gosh.
The scale is unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And they designed this massive campus, and they were going to do for R&D. Now, research and development. Now, R&D by its nature is secretive, right? So you don't build a project to integrate with the community. You actually turn yourself inward.
Right.
That comes in later. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you that how. And they created this, and it grew and grew over time. They got to it was bigger than it is now. Now it's 1.7 million feet, which makes it the largest office building in the state of Florida.
Amazing.
It is. And so they did this. They had a lot of their engineers, and they invented the first personal computer, IBM PC, here in Boca Raton. And the alumni from that event are still here today. Yeah. And Dr. Dave, I have an autographed picture of him, and he was from IBM. And what's that?
Delete. Is Dr. Dave Control-Alt-Delete?
He invented Control-Alt-Delete.
That's amazing.
It is. And hold on a minute. I'm going to show you.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if we can see that here.
Oh, yeah, we can see it.
So
Love
that
it.
is, and it says here, may Control-Alt-Delete solve all your problems. And so,
I've seen him speak. He's very engaging and very funny.
Oh, yes. I enjoy his
very funny. Yeah.
Very man. But I'm a geek. So
me too. Yeah.
So I loved it. I was just like being having there. So and the very first smartphone was also invented there. And there are countless other inventions that occurred there over the years. And sadly, they left. IBM left here. Actually, did a taxing change. I think it was in the early 90s, that caused them to go to Texas and North Carolina, I believe, is the time.
Okay.
But they left behind a lot of smart people who loved Boca Raton.
Yeah.
And so
families.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Siemens was down here as well.
Yep.
So they were able to take that intellectual capital and use it. Other companies were, which is great for our economy. And that's also important what we're trying to do going forward. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But human capital is the most valuable thing we can do. That's it. It's way more important than infrastructure and other things that people focus on, which are also important, don't get me wrong, because they all play with each other. But with smart people, you can do anything. Yeah,
talent. It's all about talent.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that's why our future there is something that is designed to really accentuate that and create a physical infrastructure, which is what I do, but one that will attract the talent to our community, which helps not just the people in our buildings, but all of us.
Oh, of course. It helps the whole region. Look,
Yes.
people say, oh, well, if you have, competition from Miami and Virgin trains, I'm like, no, that's a good thing. People have choices to come from Miami to work in Boca or vice versa or up to West Palm or whatever. I think competition is so healthy. It brings out the best in all of us. I mean, honestly, and it's not easy.
No, but you call it competition. I call it complementary, because there are different things. You may be like, you may have young people who say, I want to go to, I like the nightlife in Miami. That may be attractive to them, but they want to get a job as a computer engineer in Boca Raton.
Right.
So the more ways we can facilitate moving people around, the better for everybody.
Well, I guess what I meant with competition was talent. Like, I think it's good when there's a great job opportunity and it just brings out the best in those people that are running up for it. I think it's healthy. I think it's part of what got us all here from the 80s when we were kids working our way up the ranks. So I think it's healthy, and I think you're right. They do complement each other for sure. Tell us a little bit about Brick. You're talking about the innovation and they're changing over there. What type of, not just tenants, because that's very important, but the landscape over there, the changes that you see, the vision. What do you see at Brick? Because it's 1.7 million square feet of space, like you said. I mean, that's massive. And that's, for those who don't know, it's about the same size as Town Center Mall. Think about that. I mean, relatively speaking, that's a big space.
Full of
really
office.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And we have 6,000 workers at its peak, and we have about the same number of parking spaces.
I know.
It's quite a bit of people there. And we also have a tri-rail station basically next to campus. And we're the only parcel of land, I believe, on the entire I-95 that's buttressed by 2 exits of a 95. We have
Is that the new exit? Oh, yeah.
River, and we own all the land in between. So we have amazing access points and everything else. That's why I'm trying to press to do more community-based projects there that I think would be really good for everyone, because it's so centrally located. It's almost in the perfect geographic center for Boca Raton, if you look at it. People forget, because they always think of it as out west, because we're not like that anymore. We're actually,
no, not anymore. No. Right. Central, Midtown,
Midtown Boca, Midtown Boca, and kind of where Lynn University is probably the exact center, but right around there.
Yep.
But what we did, we bought this thing. It had IBM left years ago, and it had been left behind, and it became known as a place for cheap office space.
Call centers,
very dated. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that type of view, but it wasn't really helping the chamber of out with checking new businesses and really.
And it has such potential. I mean, you can't leave an asset like that. You guys, especially, you can't just sit back and be okay with that.
No, but when we bought it, right, it was 130 acres in the middle of, and we're like, what are we gonna do? And I go, I don't know, but it looks it's 130 acres. We'll figure out what to do with it. So we bought it, and we found out during our diligence that when IBM built this, they hired by a world famous architect who designed it, and Marcel Breuer, and he actually is a father or pioneer. I don't know if he started it, but a brutalist architecture. He also did the Boston City Hall, which is both styles. It's called brutalistic for a reason. It kind of punches you in the face. Right. And at first I hated it, and it was ugly. But then I got to really look at it and enjoy it and see the detail. And now I can't imagine not doing that. We've actually designed a new parking garage for the project and we designed it to replicate the features of the architecture that was currently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where would that be? I know you're.
It's so big. I mean, maybe you know where the
like 5,000. I can always go by 5,000, the main entrance, which used to be the main entrance for you guys were on the left, not your team. Yeah.
It's
so
south
by there,
building, not the north side.
Okay.
So. For everyone who doesn't know, it's such a massive project. It's very difficult to explain it, because trying to pinpoint on 130 acres what the acre is going to be. But it's right near the right near where the cafeteria is. That's out
Okay.
there.
Okay.
So, what we're looking forward to is to when we bought this was to make something special, and we wanted to build something for the future, because a project of that scale and size, to sell it properly for us to make money, you need to find someone who's willing to put in $500 million investment in Boca Raton. That's a lot of money in Boca Raton, and it's happened in the past. The Boca Resort is $1 billion, and the mall is probably over $1 billion as well. I don't know.
The new Via Mizner will be about $1 billion investment all in.
Well, when Mark's done with it, it will be.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'll leave that to you guys. So parking garages. So how many spaces will that be? And I know it's very expensive. I know somewhere someone told me that it's like $9,000, $10,000 for a parking spot, and then if it's in a garage, it's like $25,000. Okay, that might have been right. So how many spots will that be? Are they going to be necessary in 10 years? I don't know. I'm just guessing and trying to make conversation here. It's just a question. And do you build the garage to possibly make it adaptable to something else? Maybe more office space if you need less cars or something like that. If we ever get there either, a lot of what
if. Garage is almost like building a new stable in a downtown for horses, because I'm building technology that is antiquated right now. I'm about to spend, I think it's like $26 million for the garage. Big number.
Wow.
It's like 1,400 parking spaces. And it's very expensive, because when you build a garage, we're building it on existing parking. So that means I have to replace the parking I'm putting it on and build more. So when you look at the cost, it's very expensive to build all those marginal spaces. It's well over $20,000 per space. And so, but the reason we're doing it is not so much the parking, which we could use. We have plenty of parking, but it's the convenience. It's such a large campus.
Yeah.
That some people have to walk so far to get to the buildings. So by putting the deck close by the building, it'll make it a lot easier for people to to park and get to their offices.
Interesting.
Well, plus we want this to be an A building. And A buildings require parking. Mm-hmm. So those are some of the elements we're doing. And
I've seen a lot of the space there. It's all being converted very rapidly. I mean, I've been at the city 5 years, and we've seen numerous tenants come in and and I know these are expensive investments from the companies, from you guys. I mean, but I think, like you said, about investing in your properties and in your real estate and in your portfolios, whether they be real estate or stock and bonds, I think reinvesting is very important. And I think the way you guys have done it, you've done it well. I've been through that building numerous times, like I said, and everyone has their own look and their own feel. Not everyone's doing the same thing, which I think is great, but everyone's definitely upgrading their space when they move in.
Well, and so are we, because since we bought it about 2 years ago now, we have decided, what do we do? How do we reposition this asset? And the idea was to make it attractive so we could get a big institutional investor, like an insurance company or somebody to come in and buy this project when we're done. So we said, we got to invest for the future. Well, what is the future? We said, well, we're in office. So what office tenants are going to be growing for the foreseeable future? And we looked around, and there's different areas, but at that time, Modernizing Medicine, a local company that's done really well, great company run by Dan Kane, who's just a fantastic person, by the way. I don't know if you know. Well, I know you know Dan. I don't. If anyone else doesn't know Dan, you should meet him. He's a great guy. And he just come and moved in from the Innovation Center at the FAU, and got me thinking, well, why not gear this to tech and life science tenants? Because that is the future. All of it. Mm-hmm. Not all of our growth, but a tremendous amount of our growth are in those fields. And we're so large, we have enough capacity, we could become the southeastern hub for that. And so then I said to myself, well, what is it that would attract those type of tenants? And the answer is, well, wherever they can get good employees. So I wanted to create an environment that would be attractive to their employees or potential employees so that they would want to be here and work for them. So I said, well, how do I do that? Let's just steal some ideas, which I'm really good at. I'm stealing it. So, well, why not? So
if they're good, right.
So I said, let's go look at the Google campus.
Very efficient use of your knowledge.
And the Apple campus, right? And I figured those would be great examples. So we did that. We saw all the amenities they they have there, and then we put them into our project. That includes 2 coffee shops. When I say coffee shops, I mean like Starbucks level coffee shops. One's called Marcel. Remember the Marcel Breuer is the architect, so we called it Marcel Brewer there. And the play on words. And on that one, there's a deck that goes up by the massive lake we have, where we have a replica of the very first, the pavers are in the shape, and they have the letters from the very first keyboard, PC keyboard, and Control Alt Delete are brass.
Cool.
Yeah, because we like the history is so important, right?
Of course.
We actually hired a historian to write a book about brick. It's actually
nice.
doing it right now. And then we have another coffee shop called Java, because it means coffee, but also it's the programming language. And in between the two, we put in that will be Boca Raton's very first food hall with 7 restaurants. We have a it's called Byte, BYTE. And then we have a grab and go where you can go get groceries on the way home or little snacks for the office called Bits, Bites and Bits. We'll have
you really are a geek. I am too. I totally get it. Get it.
We did everything.
I know. I remember the brainstorming times that you guys were coming up with the names, and it was just incredible.
It's going to be revolutionary. We have a STEAM lab, which stands for science, technology, arts, and engineering and mathematics, where we're going to have robotics lab, 3D printing. I mean, just everything you can imagine in there, so that our tenants and their employees can fabricate prototypes right there on campus. We're taking the cafeteria, we're turning it into a multi-purpose room. During the day, it'll be a cafeteria, but then it becomes a massive presentation hall, which can sit 1,000 people. And
I love that room, by the way.
We're gonna have the
open space. It's just so vast. It's beautiful. I mean, it just needs updating, but the bones are just perfect. I mean, really, that's my favorite part of the whole building. Honestly,
it's unbelievable. It's one of the best indoor spaces in Boca.
Yep, it is.
And when IBM built this, because they did things only the one way, and that was the best way possible, the entire building, the entire structure was poured concrete. So it's a hurricane-proof infrastructure, and they put a 10-megawatt standby generator that oil tanks can keep the project going at full steam for 2 weeks.
Wow.
So,
Angelo, why can't you put parking on the roof? I'm not an architect, and that's probably the dumbest question you've ever heard. But being a cement building like that, hurricane-proof, it would save you. Maybe you only spend, instead of 26 mil, you spend 13 mil. We split the difference, and
you can do it. And it
won't work there?
No, you can. You can put it on the roof.
But I mean, why do a garage if you need that space? And
well, because garages there's a couple of things that solve a few of the problems. But garages in Florida are special, not because they had spaces, but because they had covered spaces. So putting it on the roof is going to give you. Yeah. Surprised at how many safety and other issues you have when you turn it.
I don't know.
No, it's a good idea, and we did design something like that. But ramping up to the second floor is a problem as well.
Yeah.
And then cars from running off the roof is a problem.
Yeah. So this is why I don't do it. That's why I'm not in infrastructure.
We actually did it, but we actually researched, but it ended up being that was the better option in there.
Okay.
And so inside the space, and we're gonna have a wellness center, which is really important, especially in light of the COVID situation, be more important. And remind me to tell you about the doctor we hired recently, but we're going to have a medical professional who run the wellness center. And that's to keep everyone in the 6,000 employees we have healthy, happy, run blood drives, get flu shots taken, bring onto campus physical therapists, so you can get the therapy done right there.
Is that what Dr. Walter will be doing, or?
Dr. Walter's different. He's an epidemiologist in New York.
Okay.
And he's going to be running for our entire 11 million square foot portfolio, our health, medical, and environmental program.
Wow.
And it's a lot bigger. Brick's a microcosm of bigger.
Yeah. Wow.
I know we're going a lot of chit chat going on here.
It's okay. Let me get my notes. Hold on. Where are we next? Okay. I go off track pretty quickly. I can't be trusted. Kelly's going to turn us off shortly. I'm just kidding. Okay. So we talked about Boca Center and everything that you have going on there. You had the building you're in now. I love that black building by Town Center Mall. Can we talk about what's going on, the vision you have for that area?
Absolutely.
With the restaurants.
Oh, I got the inference. Well, the building itself that we're just completing a very nice renovation to all of the common areas and the elevator cabs. The building itself is very nice. But what people like, especially in office buildings, and you can tell this by the success that we're having across the street, and we have for 30 years at Boca Center, people like to office where they can walk downstairs to eat. It's tried true in all markets. And we saw a need, and that's kind of what one of the reasons why we were trying to do the larger Midtown Boca program that we kind of put on hold. We saw a need to create that environment, walkable area, similar to what Atlantic Ave did in Del Rey. Now, obviously, because our plans have been scaled down dramatically, we're focusing just on the most popular element, which are restaurants. So we have 4 or 5 restaurant spaces, depending on how it gets cut up, the space. And we're putting it on the between us and the Town Center Mall on the corner of Butts and Town Center. And it's designed to be a place where hopefully people will say when they go out to dinner, "Where'd you go for dinner last night?" And they'll say Restaurant Row, because that's kind of the idea of trying to create a sense of place. And that is very complementary to the office buildings that are around here. But it becomes a really nice amenity for our city. And for our town, because it's also have to be a drive-up location with just restaurants, beautiful outdoor space with fountains and outdoor seating areas and loges, covered walkways. And we currently have, and we're not ready to announce the names, so I know you're going to ask me.
Oh, come on.
An Italian concept, a sushi concept, a high-end Mexican concept, and a American type of steak, fish place. And did I say the bistro? It should be 5.
5 bistro.
Yeah. So and we're going to be announcing that we're in lease with them right now. So once we actually have signed leases, then we'll make it. But a deal's
so
not
they
done.
lease the space before they do the build out. Is that how that works?
Well,
how does that work?
We went in for site plan approval,
right?
Which we received for the project, and now we're going in for our building permits. Which we could really use for anyone out there in the city who wants to help out. We could really use as an expedited review on that, because we are coming out of a situation where a lot of restaurants in our community are going to close. Right. And we're able to hopefully, thankfully, convince these other restaurateurs who are coming into our markets to make these investments, et cetera. As the other restaurants go out, sadly, this is going to be really important, not only to help stimulate our economy, which I know is your job, right? From a business standpoint, but the people, I'm not even talking the owners of these restaurants are going out of business, but their employees, who are skilled restaurant employees, are going to need other places to work. And they've been especially hard hit. So the faster that we can get replacement businesses going, and that would be hospitality and restaurants.
Absolutely, the 2
number
main.
one.
That's
where everyone lost their job. We should
really
they should be, I mean, just from a public policy standpoint, that should be expedited. It's way more important. There are other things, I mean, everything's important, but if you have to relative, that's where the pain is. And it actually doesn't cost the city anything to do that. As an example.
And that's something we could certainly help you with, all kidding aside. That's something we can certainly get in touch with our building team. They really are amazing. We'll certainly put a good word in and see if there's anything they could do for that. Because like you said, first of all, the location is, I live in Midtown Boca, so I think it's needed something out in that area. They're really, unless you go to the mall, which not always, everyone wants different things, different times, but there's a couple of restaurants on Glades that are very nice. But I think having an option like that, 5 places, you park, and then you park, I assume you park right in the building, right? Because it's now closed at nighttime.
Right. We'll have valet parking if you choose to do that. Although no one's been doing that for at least 6 months. But
right.
You're right. A lot of surface and deck parking here that will be available to anyone who's coming. And so to us, listen, the people who work in the city work very hard, and they deserve a hand of for what they do. The problem is that they have a lot of demands on their time. And so it's not, they just have a lot of work to be done. And so, it's just giving them the tools they need, or allowing the private people even to do their own review, through private providers, anything to help the process along.
Move along, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I make sure we do it the right way, but make sure we do it in the best and most efficient manner.
I agree, and I think everyone agrees with that. One couple of quick questions we have here. You have the plaza is Wells Fargo Prudential Insurance. That's the building that's going to have the restaurant row?
Yes.
Okay.
And then across the street, the old Grace building or Tyco building. People conveniently forget that was the name of the building now. But now it's One Town Center.
You're right. I did forget.
Right.
It was Grace when I moved here, moved to Tyco, which was a big player years ago, and then that all happened, and then now it's Bank of America. Is that what it's officially called? Okay.
And well, it's actually, they're on the building, so everyone calls it that, but it's actually called Two Town Center. I'm sorry, One Town Center.
Yeah.
But the owner of Farmer's Table is going to be opening up a restaurant on the ground floor there. So there's another food option for you. And that one, the working title, I think, is called China Table, which is going to be a healthy Asian format.
Okay.
Although in light of recent events, they probably might change the name to something else. But he's an amazing operator.
He is smart businessman for sure. Yeah. Let's talk about Boca Center. I always call it Crocker to this day. I call it Crocker Center. It's just stuck in my head, and it's just the way I learned it that way, and it's hard for me to shift gears sometimes. But some of the tenants there, we know that some people. One person, Joseph, I believe, is moving to Town Center, right?
Sure.
So always busy around 4, 5 o'clock. People go in on a Saturday, they pick up their food and they go. And I'm sure during work, I don't work over there, but at lunchtime, the place is slammed. But you also have a new tenant over there that I noticed, Copperfish.
Yes.
Going from memory, I haven't been out, obviously. Who has? But I haven't been out in a while. But I know that what was that? The Chinese food. Uncle Ty's. What an institution. I think I shed a tear when he was closing. But if you could talk about some of the things, not just on that, you have corporate. I know I've moved a few financial firms over there. So let's talk about what you're seeing on that scale, because that shows everything. It got retail, it's got restaurants, it's got office space, and the hotel. So kind of give us some, what does that look like lately? Well, not just due to COVID, just in general.
No. Well, it's still the #1 office location in town. They get the highest rents. And although One Town Center is closely, is catching up on it. And so they're close competitors. There's different users. One Town Center is a traditional, a classic business building. Like it's got the presence of a financial, that's why all the financial institutions are in there. Yep. It's got probably the best rent roll in all of South Florida, actually, if you look at it. It's fantastic. And Boca Center is got the best access to amenities for the users. And both of these buildings are located in Midtown Boca, which has got the name because it's the best, easy to get to location in town. And also, if you have employees who live north or south, 95 jumps off right into this area here. So, they've been doing really well. I think the buildings themselves at Boca Center need a little TLC, and we'll be getting that soon. With some renovations we planned in the common areas. The retail is going to need to be completely overhauled at Boca Center. Joseph's is moving out, and that's an anchor for us. Now we have another
moving out. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Joseph's.
Oh yeah, Joseph's. Okay, sorry.
And they're moving out. They're going to the mall. I wish them the best of luck.
Yeah, of course.
The guy's Albert's a great guy. I think I have another specialty grocer in line for the spot. Not ready to announce, but we'll talk about it later. It's a good use there, and I think people enjoy the advantage of just jumping. It's so much easier to get in and out of here than it is the mall. So I think that audience that likes to just go in and pick about food quickly and get out.
Right.
Will continue to come here. And then of course, Joseph will have his local customers who don't mind battling the mall traffic. So they'll continue. Brio closed recently, and that's another.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a good run with them, and that was nice. But it was one of the things that when it comes to tenanting our retail spaces, and whether it's Boca Center or Mizner Park, but we want to find local operators, not chains. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with chains.
I know what you mean.
But when people, that we get a lot of tourists down here, a lot of snowbirds down here, and they don't want to go have the same experiences here that they could have back in Ohio or New York or wherever they're from, Philly. So we like to actually, if we can, put in places like Copperfish, which is a local businessman who owns it. It's a fantastic restaurant. Have you eaten there yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, the crab cake's the best crab cake I've ever had. Okay.
Nice. Are they out of Maryland? Where did Copperfish come from?
I don't know where he was originally. He's been on here for a while, and he also owns a restaurant he bought and turned around recently in West Boca. But I think his business was originally in the seafood wholesale business.
Okay.
Got into it.
Makes sense.
But yeah, that's good. And then Guy LaFerrere, for instance, for men's clothing, local, and he himself is there every day. And we have other people as well. And not to turn my nose up at the chains. I mean, I love my Starbucks too, so I'm not saying that. But it's the local people who make it an interesting center. So I'd like to find more people like that if we can. And I think retail is struggling, and people don't want to go to do something that is ordinary. They want to go do something that's going to
experience. Yeah, we all want an experience, especially now. If we're going to leave the house, it's going to be for something that we value, whether that be an experience or you sit outside. When you talk about, smaller, I think I totally get what you're saying. We see a lot of these local business people, very successful. Years ago, we used to go to Maxwell's Chop House. What was his name? He worked there, and now he's one of the Brandon. No,
I know.
Brandon
from the restaurant group.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So they join these restaurants. Exactly, that's my point. Is he started with a couple of restaurants that went like Catch 22 100 years ago, and that didn't do well, which was a gorgeous space over on Federal Highway. And then he now has the steakhouse in Cut 432 or 567, whatever it is. And then he did the Mexican place cannot be beat. I mean, that is. So then they join those groups, and those are the types of, I think they're local. They know the market. Our market's fickle with restaurants. We all know it. There's institutions that have been here 100 years. They do well no matter what. But it's hard for sometimes those chains to come in and do well in Boca. I mean, Chili's just closed after how many years by Town Center Mall? And we're like, oh, they're redoing it. Like, no, it's going to be a jewelry store, which who knew? I didn't know. I mean, I work at the city. You can't know everything. So you have to investigate these things. So I think that's a smart play to have the local restaurant groups come in and know the area and know the market. And
it just makes it more interesting for people, right?
And that's their success. That's where the success comes in. We need these restaurants to be successful, not just me, all of us. It's our city. We're invested in it. We want to welcome, we want to put our dollars, especially now, in someone who's going to see that dollar. That local person who's going to see that we're coming every week, we're coming every Friday, we're getting the wine and the this and the that, or whatever it is that the kids are coming to. And I think that just instills community at its truth. So
local smart. People also invest their profits back into the community.
Always.
So it's a
cycle.
It is. So if you when you go to Brio's, once again, and you spend your money, and you get the profits at the end of the year, the month, whatever, and it goes to Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but I agree with you. It's a business model that works.
Last year, but that's only saying that you get more economic development when you invest. When you buy a suit from Guy LaFerrere, right, and then he goes and he buys a house or hires some to cut his lawn, or whatever, and that's how that works. It's like Jimmy Stewart when he's talking about how he doesn't have the money in the bank, that the money's in everyone's house.
You're right. Yeah, I gotcha. Lots of movie references. I'm keeping up though. No, I agree. I think that's very smart. I think, Guy LaFerrere, he's been here since I've been here. And like I said, I moved here in 91 and I remember going into that store and I was like, he's a tailor. I mean, I was like, what? Like, it's just, again, there's something old school, but valuable about that. I mean, to be able to go to a tailor, yes, you can get your Cronali suits and you can get all these, zinnias, whatever. But at the end of the day, if you just want to bring your pants in because you got married and now they don't fit or whatever it is, you can get them tailored there. It's a great store.
No, and he's great because he says the right thing. He's like, well, apparently there's a fabric problem here. It shrank. That's you never got bigger. The pants, they
I knew
got,
I liked them. I knew I liked them for something.
darn well, I'll fix this for you. Don't worry.
The verbal tip. I'll take it. So is there anything else that we should be, again, we said we would try to keep this to about 40 minutes. We're at about 40 minutes. We've been doing these a few times now. I told you we get hundreds, sometimes thousands of views on these. So if we do get questions, we'll certainly let you know. But we may have to have you come back on. These are being watched more than we thought they would. You know, we didn't know what to expect. But as the projects come online and as the restaurants open, or, you know, we'd love to have them on, or do maybe a video of what it looks like even as it's coming out of the ground. You know, it's just people want to know what's going on in our city. You know, no one, I don't want to sit here and do this. It's kind of awkward to sit on a computer and talk, but I think with people want to hear what's going on, this is the only way right now for us to do it. But we can maybe think about meeting back up and taking one property at a time and look where this is going. And
well, listen, we're always available, and we love sharing information. And we have a great marketing department run by Gianna Petronelli, who does
she's amazing
work for us. And so she's hopefully disseminating. I know she has information. We have a website. We always can be contacted if you want to tour any of our buildings. We also do that, especially brick. That's a really interesting one. The other ones are kind of boring. I'll tour you at any building, but that's what we really want to see around here. And we can talk about the history and everything behind that. And we can do all of that stuff. And I guess one thing we didn't talk about, which was kind of refreshing, other than hinting on it, was the COVID and the crisis we're in today and what's going on.
I mean, I don't want to play it down, but I think we're all, I don't know. I mean, you want to talk about it? Talk about it. What are you, a precautionary? I think you were the one who told me about the copper. Was it copper that you had mentioned? This is fascinating to me.
So we're looking. Since this happened, we created a remobilization task force internally at Crocker Partners, and we just to create and implement safety protocols and changes to reduce the possibility of transmission of disease in our project. And that's to do with cleaning, disinfecting, et cetera. But one of the things you just mentioned about is to take high touch surfaces and change them to copper alloy surfaces. And the reason I learned all this and became an amateur epidemiologist over the last 4 months is because copper, by its nature, has one electron that spins around the outside of it on a molecular level. And that one electron, when it touches a virus, kills it. Wow. And so the viruses don't last very long on copper surfaces. And unlike everything else, which wears away with time, copper keeps its antimicrobial properties forever. And so,
isn't it expensive? I mean, in new construction, you always hear about, not necessarily in Boca, but when you read the periodicals from around the country, people steal the copper wiring. They're stealing the copper out of, either old buildings that are being demolished or new buildings that they're trying to do that type of. Isn't it? It must have some value on the market, whether they liquidate it like people will still do with gold.
It is expensive, but you can do alloys. You can do copper, zinc, bronze, and so that becomes less valuable for anyone to do. But when it comes to the money, obviously money is always a factor, but we're doing this to save lives. So obviously we have to keep operating as a
well, there has to be,
So we're investing heavily in new systems, procedures to enhance the health of our buildings and of our customers, our tenants, and their employees. And that's what we're doing. We're also working very hard to modify what we do to help them out in dealing with these issues. For instance, we started a partnership, which I think you know about, with the YMCA in Boca Raton. So, which is great. We turned over a portion of the Boca Raton Innovation Campus to them, and they have day camp there now. And the reason we did that is that our tenants' employees, even if they can go back to work, they have nothing to do with their kids.
Right.
So we wanted to create a place for the children to be safe, for the parents to drop them off at during the day, which they've been doing. And they're playing, which is kind of funny to see. I was just in there for a meeting yesterday, and there were a bunch of kids running around playing whatever they were playing.
Yeah.
So
that's great. It's great. I mean, you're doing everything you can to help the tenants over there. And I think that's smart, because I think a lot of us are ready to get back to business, but how do we do that safely? And you guys are definitely doing that. So we appreciate that for sure. Well, did we miss anything, Angelo? Did we miss any topics? We didn't speak about Dr. Walter.
We should. I was just thinking of, maybe there might be an interesting time to talk about that with maybe Dan Kane comes on as an example, and we could do like a health, because he'd be great for that, and business kind of connection there.
Love it.
That would be a cool thing. There's plenty of people in Boca that we could bring in to talk about that. We could take maybe someone from Baptist or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Because we're definitely starting to do these more. We went from a few of them to now twice a week, and I think that's about all we'll be doing. But yeah, that's a great idea. We'll reach out to you and Gianna for Dr. Walter's schedule, and obviously Dan Kane, see if he's available. But I think that'd be a great discussion because he's also a tenant, so it's kind of good perspective. Forget his health knowledge and his wealth of insane technology brain, but he would be good from a tenant perspective. So we'll definitely do that for sure. Anything else? I hate to let you go because no? Okay.
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We really do appreciate it. Any questions, we'll certainly send to you and Gianna to answer from a tenant perspective or anything of that nature. If you could just hang on 1 second, Kelly will take us offline.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ange.
Bye.